Hello, everybody. I think it's midday, so it's time to start our session. So first of all, welcome. Welcome to this webinar with AXELOS and with ILX. Today, we're going to provide you with an overview of Itil4. We're going to talk about the changes to the syllabus and also provide you with an overview of the certification and, importantly, how Itil4 is helping organisations to be more service-led. My name is Sally and I'm the Sales Director here at ILX, and I'm joined by Alice from our marketing team. And I'm also joined by Lewis, who is the Regional Brand Manager at AXELOS. Very shortly I'm going to be handing you over to Lewis, but first of all I've just got a few sort of housekeeping bits and bobs that I'd like to go through with you. First of all, we are recording this session and we'll follow up with an email tomorrow, so you've got a link to the recording which you'll be able to access through YouTube. So if you need to duck out or you want to forward that recording to any colleagues, you will receive that in an email tomorrow. We've scheduled 1 hour. Lewis is going to be spending about 40 minutes to sort of go through a number of things with you, which will allow us about sort of 20 minutes at the end of his session for questions and answers. If we can keep those questions and answers to the end, that'd be much appreciated. That's just due to the number of people that are attending this session. But please do submit your questions as we go through the presentation. There should be a question box to the right-hand side of your screen. So, put those questions in. Alice will be collating those so we can read them out at the end of the session, and hopefully, time permitting, we can answer all of those questions for you. In terms of resources, please do go to our website, which is www.ilxgroup.com. We've got plentiful resources, from sort of podcasts to white papers that hopefully can help you in your role. Also, please, do follow us on all of our social media platforms where we have profiles. And last but not least, please do provide us some feedback. As soon as this session has ended, you'll receive a very short feedback form. It is just literally a couple of questions, but this enables us to improve these types of sessions that we run for you. Anyway, that's it from me for now. I'm going to pass you over to Lewis now. So thank you very much, and thank you for joining and listening.
Thank you, Sally, and hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this session. My name is Ribero. I'm Regional Brand Manager for the EMEA region for AXELOS. First of all, apologies, my webcam is not working today. I normally like to do webinars showing myself, but for an unknown reason, it's still loading. So hopefully it will work later in the presentation. If not, my apologies. My role at AXELOS in a nutshell is to help organizations and individuals understand the value of best practice such as Itil and other products. As you can hear with my accent, I'm originally from Colombia. I lived there with my childhood. Then I moved to France where I did my studies, and I have been living in the UK for the past 8 and 9 years. And I've been working for AXELOS for the past 5 years. So for the ones who are not familiar who AXELOS is, let me briefly tell you about AXELOS. We are the owners, but I prefer to say the custodians of what we call the best practice portfolio. And the best practice portfolio are the products that you see here on the screen. Itil, which is the best practice a framework for IT service management, but we also own Prince2 Agile, which are products for the project management space, for MSP, which is for program management, and in other domains. So what we do at AXELOS is we make sure that the content, the best practice that we write, that we create, is relevant for organizations and individuals. But today, the agenda that I'm going to cover today. First of all, we're going to speak about some basics concept of Itil4, what's new, what elements we introduced with the newest version of Itil4. Then we will go more in detail into the certification scheme, what was the thinking behind the certification scheme, and why we had those modules. Then we will speak about the Itil4 and digital transformation, and then we will go to some of the case studies. Sorry, I activated this very quickly, but right now you should have a poll with you where you can select what is your level of familiarity with Itil. This will help me understand how much you know about Itil 4, Itil v3, or if your knowledge is very limited. So then I know how to, in what areas I need to concentrate more. So you should have a poll with you. So I appreciate if you select the answer that applies to you. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do it. And as Sally said, at the end we will cover a Q&A session. So feel free to add all the questions in the chat. We will cover those at the end. I give you a few more seconds to complete the survey or the poll, sorry. And I cannot see how many people have responded, but I think that's good enough. So let me close the poll and share with you the results. So I cannot see quite well because just give me 1 second to check the results, but you can see it in the screen. So a few people, a very low percentage, who have some of the Id4 certifications, being foundation, which is the most popular, or others. I would say a big group of people then is quite balanced. A third of you are familiar with Itil v3 and have Itil v3 certifications, so that's great. Other people are familiar with Itil, but no certifications, and a third of the audience have no familiarity with Itil. Okay, good. So we have a very balanced and dispersed audience, which is totally fine. So I will try to make it as simple as possible to understand for the people who are new to Itil, but we'll also use some of the concepts from Itil v3 to explain the logic of why the new elements of Itil 4. So I move away from the poll and I go to the next topic. Alice, can you help me remove the poll from the screen? I'm not sure how to do it because we still see the question.
I'm just trying to, apologies, trying to get it off the screen and it won't disappear for some reason.
Okay.
Do you perhaps want to try resharing your screen, Lewis?
Yeah, I think that works. Sorry about that, just a technicality. But now let's move to the first topic of the presentation today, which is the Itil 4 basic concepts. And I want to start by saying that some of these concepts, I will going to cover them in a few minutes, but in reality, when you go to a training course, you will spend hours there. So the idea is not for you to fully understand what each topic is about, but you have just to have a brief overview or a snapshot of what you will see in a training course. These concepts are key and important for you to understand what's the logic behind the certification scheme that is going to be the second part of the presentation. So actually the first topic or the first concept, which is a simple one, is it's in Itil 4 we're moving away from the concept deliver value, and we are speaking about value co-creation. And what I mean by that is service providers tend to say, oh, I'm delivering value to my customer, which shows only one-way relationship. Me as a service provider, I give something to my customer. And in Itil 4, what we are saying is the value is not delivered. Actually, the value is co-created with the customer or other stakeholders through a service relationship. So let me give an example to explain this concept in a better detail. A service provider creates an app for a bank. The app itself doesn't create any value. It's only valuable when the users can transfer money from one place to another or pay the bills. So that's why we are moving away from delivering value, and we are speaking now about value co-creation, and the value is co-created only through a service relationship. The second concept that I'm going to share with you today is the 4 dimensions of service management. And what is this? It's something that we introduced in Itil 4, where we say that everything that somebody does in service management, that person has to see that activity through these 4 dimensions or 4 lenses or 4 perspectives. In IT, people tend to focus a lot on the technology and they might forget other areas such as people or suppliers and so on. So what we're suggesting here with Itil is that if a person in the workplace, they have to go and change a process. Process is just one dimension, but that person also has to look at what's important, the impact in my people. Do I need to skill up my people because of the new process? I need to go and also check the technology behind. Do I need new technology to support this? What about information that I need as part of the process? And the same with partners and suppliers. Is it going to change anything in any relation with my partners or suppliers? Do I need to set up new suppliers to support this process? So this shows that everything that is done in service management has to be seen from these 4 dimensions and these 4 perspectives. But in a training course, you will see more detail behind this. And another key concept that candidates go to Itil training will see in Itil 4 is the service value system. The service value system basically describes all the components that a service provider needs to enable value co-creation. So me as a service provider, I need all of this in order to co-create value with my customer. A set of guiding principles, some behaviors that are going to help me coordinate the culture in my organization. We'll speak about governance. I'm going to measure performance. Service value chain, which is a concept that I will explain more in detail in the coming slides, and that's something that you will see a lot when I explain the certification scheme. But this is the core part of Itil 4. And this is for the ones familiar with Itil v3. This is the evolution from the service life cycle in Itil v3. And that's basically when the work gets done. Practices, which supports the work done in the service value chain. Those practices are resources that, are, as I said, are helping the work done in the service value chain. For the ones familiar with Itil v3, this is the evolution from processes. But I will go and explain the practices more in detail in a second. Finally, continual improvement, basically different ways to improve constantly in everything that we do. As I said, this is the service value stream. This is everything, all the components that an organization needs to create value. And I'm going to speak now about guiding principles, service value chain, and practices, which are key areas from this diagram. Guiding principles. As I said with the guiding principles, these are a set of behaviors and values that are going to help service providers create a culture that is going to be productive and is going to be the right culture for service management. Areas like focus on value. I need to make sure that my people know that everything that they do needs to be focused on value, needs to lead to value. Or start where you are, another example. Why to overcomplicate things? Why to try to change things or to start things from scratch if I already have something? Or my favorite, keep it simple and practical. How we ensure that the simplicity is there and we make it simple, make processes simple and all the activities in a simple way. Simple for us to work, but also simple for the customers and users. So in a training course, you will see a lot of these principles, more specific examples on how to apply these principles in the workplace. This is a big or important area of Itil 4 because we're moving a lot into the cultural side, and you're going to see it in every single module. Now let's move on to the concept called the service value chain. And as I explained earlier, this is the evolution of the service life cycle in Itil v3. For the ones not familiar with Itil v3, I would say this is the core part of Itil 4. This is a set of interconnected activities that when they work together are going to allow the service providers convert demand or opportunity into value. It's everything that I need to support the creation of new services or the support of existing services. And how does it work, or how the work is coordinated through this service value chain is by creating value streams. And again, value streams is a concept that you will go through a training course, and it will take hours to understand and to fully get up to speed with this concept. But here what I want to show you is that certain activities are going to move through the service value chain from demand to value. And depending what activity is, for instance, in this case, it's a new service request, it will move in a way in the service value chain. But instead of a new service request, I may have a service support request. So we'll have a different value stream, a different journey for the service value chain. But each of the points there will show an activity that I will need to execute in order to co-create value at the end of the journey. Again, the intention for you is not to fully understand how value streams work through the service value chain, but just to have a snapshot of some of the concepts that you will see in Id4. And this concept of service value chain make it very agile and dynamic. We at Id4, we're not telling people you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. We're suggesting activities that they need to do, and the organization, based on their own resources, capabilities, objectives, and so on, will define what is the best value stream for them. So that's service value chain, and this is a key concept of Id4. And as I said, you will spend hours on a training course going through each of these activities in the service value chain and value streams. And we have another concept before we move to the certification scheme, which is the practices. As I said, the evolution of the Itil v3 processes, now we call them practices. And why we call them practices is because those resources, we are now looking at them from the 4 dimensions perspective. As I said earlier, 4 dimensions, one of the dimensions is processes, but we also need to look at those resources from the point of view of people and organizations, from the point of view of partners and suppliers, and information and technology. Why the practices had a big evolution from Itil v3 to Id4. But for the ones who are not familiar with Itil v3, the practices are those resources supporting all the work happening in the service value chain. And let me give you an example. For example, let's say that in the company, a router broke, and a customer calls the service desk to request a new router so then they can work. That will be supporting an existing service, and it will create certain activities in the value chain. From demand, which is what the customer needs, we'll go to engage, which basically somebody in the help desk might be engaging with that customer. Then it will go to support, and it will go to different places in the service value chain. But there is some practices that are going to support that piece of work. For example, one of the practices is called incident management. As this is an incident, that practice will provide some guidance on how to deal with incidents, and therefore it will help the teams working with that activity to sort that activity to sort it out as soon as possible. But there is not only one practice. There is another practice called service desk, and as this issue or this incident was requested by service desk, then that practice will help me set up a proper service desk that is going to be able to prioritize properly to cascade or escalate the issues when they need to be, and so on. So as I said, there are certain resources available. There are 34 practices in total, and here you have a list of those practices that are going to support all the work happening in the service value chain. Those practices are categorized in 3 areas. One, the general management practices. Second one, service management practices, which I would say are the most popular ones. And finally, the technical management practices, which are, as the name says, very technical. So that's all in terms of the basic concepts of Id4. Again, the intention was not for you to fully understand each of these concepts, but just to have an overview of what new elements Id4 brings. Only when you go to a training course with providers such as ILX, you will be able to fully understand these concepts. But now let's move to the Id4 certification scheme and speak more about what the certification scheme is and why we came up with the certification scheme and the routes that each candidate has in the certification scheme. So some of you might be familiar with this diagram. So this is the Id4 certification scheme. We have Id4 Foundation. We have Create, Deliver, and Support as another module. Drive Stakeholder Value. Velocity IT. The universal module that we call Direct Learn and Improve. And the newest or the latest edition, Itil and IT Strategy. The certification scheme has 4 key components that I'm going to explain in the next slides. The first one is foundation, and foundation, Id4 Foundation, is the starting point for anybody who wants to understand Id4. This is for people who are new in service management. And as the name says, it's the foundation. It provides the basics. It provides the common language that we speak in service management. And when a candidate completes an Id4 Foundation, that candidate has 2 tracks to choose from as the next steps. The first one is the track that we call the Managing Professional track. And in this track, we have 4 modules, each of the columns that you see here. And when I say module, it means a training course with an exam and a certification at the end. And those training courses are being offered by ILEX, of course. When a candidate completes all of those modules, 4 of those modules, automatically will get a designation called Itil Managing Professional. Let me clarify, the Itil Managing Professional is not a module, it's just a designation. What I mean by designation is that a candidate who completes the 4 modules will get 4 specific certificates from each of the modules, plus an additional certificate that confirms the fact that that person is a managing professional. Don't worry, I will go in the next slides, I will go one by one and explain what each of the module is about. Then there is another track running parallel where we have 2 modules or 2 products. Again, when I refer to modules, that's training course plus exam and certificate at the end. We have Direct Plan and Improve, which, as you can see with the coloring, is the same module as the one in the Managing Professional track. That's why we call it the universal module. And people only have to take it once, but that's an important module that is in both of them. And the Itil and IT Strategy. When a candidate completes these 2 modules, that person will get a designation called Strategic Leader. Again, as a designation, it's not a training course, that blue bar on the top. So it means that it's an additional certificate that the professional will get. But we also created a transition module, which we call Managing Professional Transition. And this transition module we designed specifically for people who want to transition from Itil v3 to Itil 4. The requirements in order to be eligible to take this transition module is to have at least 17 credits from the Itil v3 scheme. So for people who are new in Itil, or for people who don't have any Itil v3 certifications, that's not going to be the correct route. The correct route would be to start from foundation. But for people who are Itil experts from V3, or they have a certain amount of credits, they can complete 17 credits, or if they already have 17 credits, they can then move to the Itil 4 scheme by taking the Managing Professional Transition module. It's a course where when someone completes the course and passes the exam, will get a certificate equivalent of the designation Managing Professional. The certificate is going to say that that person is a managing professional. So as you can imagine, a Managing Professional Transition module is the best of these 5 modules, or what I call it, the greatest hits of these 5 modules: foundation and each of the Managing Professional modules that we have. It's a very condensed a course, but again, because we are with an audience who are already familiar with Itil, who have a lot of experience and knowledge from Itil v3, that's why we could condense some of the content for these people. Great. Now we saw the four key areas of the certification scheme. Right now, I want to go more in detail to explain each of the modules, which I believe is what most of you want to hear. Let's start with Id4 Foundation. The foundation, as I said, that's the basics when we speak the common language of IT service management. And somebody who goes in an IT Foundation course will go content like the four dimensions. I already mentioned what that is. The service value system with a key emphasis in practices, because practices is a big part of the foundation course. And the service value chain. Again, this is the core part of Id4. So the service value chain is a concept that is going to be covered in foundation, but it will also be covered in other modules. And the reason why I put the service value chain quite big is because I'm going to use the service value chain to explain why we have the other modules in Id4. So what I'm going to do is I put the value chain and the certification scheme in front of each other, and let's start with this module, drive stakeholder value. Drive stakeholder value is basically for all the activities that are happening between the customer and the engagement part for the service provider. So when the service provider is just engaging with the customer to understand what value is for them, to understand what the requirements are for them, that's where drive stakeholder value it has a fit. But not only at the beginning, it's also at the end. Once the service provider creates a product or a service, then it needs to make sure that that product and service is co-creating value with the customer, that there is a value realization at the end of the process. So this module, it covers how to manage all types of engagements and interactions between service providers and customers, but not only customers, other stakeholders as well, such as users, suppliers, regulators, board of directors, and so on. The key component of this module is the customer journey. And that customer journey starts from the exploration phase, when the customer is just looking at different alternatives and try to see what provider will be the best for them, all the way through so many steps to the value realization, which is the last step, is where basically the service provider says what value co-created with the customer, and that's what it covers this module. As you can see, in Id4 we have a key emphasis in customer, and the emphasis is so big that we created one product, drive stakeholder value, that covers that part. Not only customers, also other stakeholders, but we all know that in service management, one of the biggest, or not the biggest, stakeholder is the customer. This module is for people who design and manage customer experience or user experience or stakeholder relationships. So it's not only for interactions with customer. If we have a project manager who is interacting often with the board of directors for monthly reports and so on, this module is also suitable for them because in this case, the board of directors are key stakeholder. So some of the job titles that are likely to take this course, and by no means I'm not saying that this is only for them, but just some of the examples are business relationship managers, supplier relationship managers, enterprise architects, project managers, as I mentioned earlier, user experience designers, demand managers, and so on. So as I said, anyone who has to engage with a customer or with another stakeholder in the organization. So that's stakeholder value. Now let's move to the next module, which is create, deliver, and support. And as you see here, we're moving also in the service value chain. So create, deliver, and support, or sometimes we refer to this module as CDS, is basically what we call it the engine part. This is where the service provider is managing all the work, all the products and services that are going to facilitate value co-creation. For the ones familiar with Itil v3, this will be the equivalent of service operations and service transition with some components as well as service design. So as you can imagine, this is where most of the work gets done. It basically provides a deeper understanding on how to design and work with value streams, the ones that I already showed earlier in the presentation, and how those value streams are going to help me to create new services or to support existing services. And as you saw earlier in the presentation, when I create a value stream, each value stream has a step. In this step, I may have different tasks and different activities to do. And this model will provide guidance on how to do that work, how to optimize that work. And I also define it as this is a model to improve the processes in the organization and to try to get effective flow of work in the organization. It's a model designed for people who manage or design work via value streams or via practices. And let me give you some examples of the job titles that are likely to take this course. Again, it's not only for them, but just some of the examples. Itil Operations Manager, Service Desk Manager, Developers, Infrastructure Engineer, Incident Manager, Problem Manager, Availability Manager, Service Transition Manager, and others. So anybody who is working the core part of the operations, that's the module for them. And let me tell you, this is the most popular module so far. So people who take foundation, they tend to go for create, deliver, and support as the first module. But it's not a surprise because, as I said, this is very focused on the operation side. So in the value stream, we already covered the first part, the demand, the engagement with the demand, and we focus on the center part. But the next module will think more about plan and improve. And well, the title says that direct plan and improve. But not only plan and improve from the service value chain, it also brings a component from the service value system, which is governance. As you can see in the screen, this is the universal module. So that means that it's sitting in the two tracks. But this module is more strategic module. It provides guidance on how to align strategy and operations to maximize the outcomes. For me, this is a model for everybody. And why? Because everybody in the organization has to plan and everybody has to contribute to improvement. So this model will provide methods, techniques, guidance on how to do those activities, plan and improve. But it also has an emphasis on direction or governance, and that's including organizational change and metrics needed to track a performance. This is for people who design or manage planning, improvement activities, or for people who work in governance, risk, and compliance. So some of the examples of the job roles that are likely to take this module are continuous improvement managers, change managers, capacity managers, operation managers, cloud architects, enterprise architects, service designer, service portfolio managers, and others. Basically anybody involved in planning, change management, or improving activities. Now moving on the service value chain, now we have a module that covers the whole of the service value chain, which is called high. Okay, now the communication restored. I was saying that now we have a module called a high velocity IT, which covers all the activities in the service value chain. High velocity IT is a module for professionals who are working in digital enabled organizations. Basically organizations that work in high velocity environments. In IT teams or IT environments where things are evolving every day in a daily basis, where testing is happening in hundreds of thousands per day. That type of organization where whatever is done in IT is crucial to the business strategy. And it shows basically how Itil and the elements of Itils can be used for digital delivery, from small optimizations that are needed all the way to big transformations, programs and journeys that it might be required in those organizations. As you can imagine, in high velocity environments, complexity is very common. And this model, what it tries to do is try to create some kind of stability, try to bring stability into complex scenarios and increase speed. In this module, we cover a lot of the concepts of DevOps and Lean. And as you can imagine, DevOps is a key one because in high velocity environments, the coordination between development and operations is crucial. So many tests and releases happen on a daily basis that there is no margin for error. So that's why there is a key focus on DevOps in this module. And Lean as well. Lean is needed because Lean at the end of the day is getting rid of waste. And if I want to be in a high velocity environment, I need to reduce waste as much as I can. I cannot deal with waste because that's going to stop me from doing what it needs to be done. So Lean is another key concept that we see in this module. And it's basically for people who design and manage ITSM in digital organizations or ITSM for Lean and Agile teams. And some of the examples of the job titles that you see taking this course are service designers, release managers, IT operations managers, DevOps engineers, automation specialists, test engineers, Scrum Masters, business transformation managers, applications engineers, and others. Moving on in the service value chain in the certification scheme, the last module that I'm covering today is digital and IT strategy. This one again is for anybody working in the service value chain, but this module focuses more on strategy, as the name says. It focuses on the difference between business strategy, IT strategy, and digital strategy. It provides guidance on how to respond to digital disruption. It also provides the capabilities needed to compete in the digital world, and provides guidance on how to manage innovation and how to evaluate new technology to differentiate from the competitors. Examples of people who are likely to take this course are C-level executives, CIOs, CSOs, or aspiring C-level executives. And not only to IT, also CEOs or CFOs or other C-level executives from other teams are likely to take this course. And anyone with the director or head of title, such as director of digital, director of IT, director of strategy, director of operations, and so on. So as you can see from the job title, this is a very strategic module here in Id4. But we try to bring strategy as a key component of IT service management. And that's all from the certification scheme. As you see, I didn't speak about Itil Master. And reason why is because we're still working on development of Itil Master. It's very early stages. As soon as we have more information available, we will share with you that information. And now, conscious of time, let's speak more about Id4 and digital transformation. It's great to see that the certification scheme and the new concept of Id4, but sometimes, especially senior managers, what they're looking at is what frameworks can help me with my digital transformation journeys. So to start, I want to start by saying that there is a big misconception in the market by organizations and also individuals who believe that digital transformation is about new technology. And in reality, digital transformation is about getting right these 4 areas or 4 pillars. Customer and employee experience, values and behaviors, super important, it's about your people and the organization. Business model, that in this case, technology will be part of the business model, and operational excellence. And what I want to show you right now is certain elements of Id4, how they contribute to each of these pillars. For instance, in the customer and employee journey, with Id4, you will see concepts such as customer journey, employee journey, or value co-creation. And those concepts are going to help people or enable people address this pillar. The next one is about values, behaviors, and culture. Id4 speaks about 7 guiding principles that are going to help people embrace change. And digital transformation, change is key, is needed. And not only change, people to embrace and welcome change. These guiding principles will help on that. Will help organizations create the right culture for the digital transformation journeys. Business model, one where we speak about technology, but not only technology. Itil also brings the innovation part, the strategy concepts, risk management, supply management, change management, and many other areas that need to be taken into account to address the business model pillar. And finally, operational excellence, which basically says, let's be efficient and effective. It brings concepts such as agility, value streams we spoke about. With value streams, we can create minimum viable products, which is basically getting rid of waste and therefore being more efficient. Continual improvement, that is everywhere in Itil, and what are the best practices or common practices to be used. So as you can see here, there are many concepts of Id4 that are supporting these 4 pillars of digital transformation. And again, organizations having those pillars strongly strong, those organizations can have or will have more chance to succeed in digital transformation initiatives. And if you wanted to do a mapping on what each of the Id4 upper level modules will contribute towards these pillars, each of these pillars, we will do it this way. Create, deliver, and support these 3 ones. Select and improve these 3. Drive stakeholder value, these 2, and high velocity IT, all of them, the same as Itil and IT strategy. So with this, we can conclude that Id4 is an enabler of digital transformation. Id4 itself is not going to drive digital transformation, but Id4 is needed along other components and other things to drive digital transformation journeys. And it's not being said only by me, it's being said by many organizations. And this is an example of organization that I have personally spoken to who are using Id4 and are supporting digital transformation initiatives. And if you go to AXELOS.com, you will find a list of case studies, or I prefer to call them success stories, cases where organizations tell you as a reader how they have been using Itil and what are the benefits of Itil. So I invite you to go to our site and explore most of those case studies, or also in the ILX website. And I'm going to finalize my presentation so that we can move to a couple of questions. We briefly tell you a case study or a success story from an organization called CERN. For the ones who are not familiar with CERN, CERN is a research institute based in the border between Switzerland and France, and it's one of the most important in the world. They are the ones who are colliding particles to recreate the beginning of the universe and so on. And CERN, they have around 2,000 people working directly with them, and over 20,000 users or people who go there and work in a short period of time. Some scientists that go for 3-4 months to do some work. And an issue that CERN had is that each of those people, being employees or people in the short-term projects, they're considered here as users. They have different platforms and interfaces to interact with different services. For example, if the person wanted a payslip, that person needed to log in from the HR portal and ask for that payslip. But if that person needed to replace a laptop, then it will need to go to a different portal with different login details and request a new laptop. And in CERN, they also have a car hire facilities, because it's so big that you need sometimes a car to go from one place to another. Again, if you wanted to hire a car, you will need to go and request a different platform with a different password and so on. So what they noticed was that the users were spending time trying to find passwords and trying to find what is the right platform to request that service, than focusing on what they are supposed to do, research. What CERN did was it created a layer between the user and all those service interfaces that that will facilitate the use, so that will allow the user to have only one interaction with only one platform, and then the platform in the background will coordinate activities with the department needed. So in that case, the user, instead of contacting 3 or 4 different platforms for 4 different requests, it will go to one platform, and then the platform internally will coordinate how to send that request to the right team. And here, CERN, to do this, they use a lot of Id4 concepts. Guiding principles, focus on value, yes, because the value of those users is on doing research and not on spending time finding out what the password is. Start where you are, yeah, because they didn't want to start anything from scratch. They had something built and they just wanted to build on top of that. And think and work holistically. Again, they didn't take it as solely for IT. They extended to HR, to the car hire service, and so on. And 4 dimensions were critical here because it's not only about the processes and technology. They have also to look at the other dimensions in this, and they use a lot of mapping with value streams to come up with the right solution for this. But you can read the details in the case study that is available on our site. And today, CERN, they only have one interface or one platform where the person or the user will go to that platform, make the request, and then the platform will coordinate internally where the request goes to. And I think I extended myself for a few minutes, but this is all I wanted to finalize with this case study, because I think it's quite important to see that big organizations such as CERN, and actually recently we released one with Vodafone, are using Itil4. So I invite you to go and read those case studies. And thank everyone for attending this session. I think, Sally, back to you. You're going to share with the people a couple of the promotions that you have available for them.
Thank you, Lewis. Thanks for sharing that really useful and helpful information. So yes, ILX are an accredited training organisation. So we have readily available e-learning accredited courses. Well, I say e-learning, but you can take any of these Itil4 courses with ILX, either as a self-paced e-learning course, or you can take it virtually. Well, we have it available in the classroom, but obviously we can't attend classroom courses currently. So you can take that learning as self-paced e-learning, and our e-learning courses range from anything from sort of 10 hours up to 20 hours within the Itil4 suite. Also, you can attend those virtually. I know we had one question and someone asked how long it would take to take the Itil4 Foundation. So if you were to do that virtually, it is a 2-day course. And if you were to do that as an e-learning course, it takes approximately 10 to 12 hours to complete. And that's because all of our e-learning is completely interactive with sort of lots of points where we test your knowledge, and we have exam simulators built in there to make sure that you're exam ready. So we have courses, as I said, all readily available within the entire Itil4 suite. The only one that we're still due to release is the IT Digital and Strategy course, the DITS course, which should be available at the end of this quarter. So if anybody is interested in getting certified in any of these courses, please do reach out to us on the contact us email address at the bottom of this screen, and we'd be more than happy to support you. We do have 30% off, so if you're an individual and you want to book on to any of these training courses, you can just go to our website, enter that code, and you'll automatically get 30% off. If you're interested to do any corporate training, if you have got a cohort of learners, then please reach out to us and we can advise you as to what we can do and support you with there. And then last but not least, we do have other webinars within this series. This is the first of a series of 4. So if you wanted to take a deeper dive into Itil4 Foundation or any of the other modules within the Itil4 scheme, then we're providing similar sort of sessions to take that deep dive into those different modules. So we will be sending an email tomorrow, as I said earlier on, which I'll have the links to all of those sessions so that you, if you already haven't seen those, you can join those. And again, we'll be following up with an email so that you can get a recording of this session. So thank you very much for your time. I think we're pretty much to time. So we've got, yeah, maybe overrun a little bit, but we've got 10 minutes now. So Alice, I think you should have some questions that maybe we can, you can shout out and hopefully we can answer.
Yeah, definitely. We've had quite an active question chat throughout this. So the first one I'm just going to direct towards you, Lewis, is if you could just sort of briefly summarize how Id4 is structured and what it kind of aims to achieve, and specifically what continual improvement means.
Well, continual improvement has been always a key element of Itil. In Itil v3 has been always there, but it's just that because of the way that we had the publication, people were not looking into continual improvements. And what we wanted to do with Itil 4 was to bring continual improvement everywhere, as part of some of the modules, but also as part of the service value chain. And as I showed earlier in the value stream, for instance, when we have an incident and we create a value stream for that, then as part of the value stream that I show, the person, the help desk might contact the user to ask how the service went and if they have any feedback for improvement. So that's an improvement activity that you might do because you might want to improve that part. So we try to bring improvement as much as possible, but of course it is up to each organization to see how they do it. The more improvement that they do, the better they're going to be in the future. And the first part of the question, how we structured Id4, was in a way that we, as I said, we were trying to, it was a misconception in the past that Itil v3 was very focused on processes. And we wanted to move away from that. Of course, processes are important, but all are equally important to have a right balance of, for instance, values, culture, people, and so on. But basically all of the 4 dimensions, partners and suppliers, because those are critical as well for service management, as well as the technology, which has been always a big part of service management. So I would say it's a bit more balanced now. It tries to move away only from processes, and it brings continual improvement in any step that, or in any module, in any activity that we do in Itil.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. The next, we've had a couple of questions through that are specifically asking about Itil's relevance in relation to those who work in IT training. So we've had someone ask, I work as an IT trainer in a law firm, how will Itil help me as a trainer? And we've also had someone else mention that their technology trainers team is considering going for Itil Foundation, and they currently use ServiceNow, they're saying, and how would Itil be useful to them? So how would Itil be useful in a training context?
Okay, so if I understood correctly, if somebody is working in the Itil department in a law firm, how Itil is going to be relevant for them?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and yeah, at the end of the day, yes, we have big service providers such as TCS, Wipro, and so on, that Itil is the core part of what they do. But a law firm, I mean, the IT department is also a service provider of the business. If you need to, as I said, if the internet goes down, you need to ask your service provider, the IT department, to fix it. If you need a new website, you need to ask your IT department as well to work on that. So it's more about the size than the relevance. In IT department, in a law firm, in any firm, is going to be a service provider of that business. So that's it's as important as for the service providers, for the big ones. All the information that is relevant, all of them is going to help them. When we refer to service provider, that doesn't mean that the business itself is a big service provider. It means that the IT department in this case will be the service provider. Or even a restaurant is a service provider. They provide a service of food. I did recently a trek in the Himalayas, and the company that I hired, they provide the service of taking people to the mountains, and a lot of concepts from Itil are relevant, are key there. So I would say it's for everybody. It's just because of service provider could be that you are IT is the service provider, for their business.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Lewis. We've got a couple of questions around the modules themselves. So someone's asking, I already have Itil version 3 foundation. Do I need to do Itil 4? I'm assuming they mean Itil 4 foundation before I do the Itil 4 managing professional modules.
Yeah, good question. And the answer is yes. There is no transition course at foundation level. So for people who only have Itil v3 foundation and they want to explore Itil 4, they will need to start from Itil 4 foundation. And the reason behind is that in Itil 4 foundation, there are many new elements. For instance, guiding principle is something new that wasn't covered in Itil v3. Service value chain with value streams is also something new. So the new elements that that the person is, that's why the reason the person needs to go to a full course.
Okay, cool. And kind of off the back of that, what would be the best route to gain the Itil 4 managing professional designation if they already have 8 version 3 credits?
Well, I mean, if it's somebody new, I will say yes, start from Itil 4 foundation, definitely. If it's somebody who has a certain number of credits, I would suggest maybe to go to the getting the 17 credits and then to the managing professional course. There are 2 areas here. One is the cost. I don't know, I will need to do the calculation how many courses you will need to take one route or the other. But the other one is what's going to be important for my workplace. What I'm working, I mean, the concept of Itil v3 is going to help me today to do my job better, but actually is going to be more of the Itil 4 modules. So I think that should be the key area to make the decision. But I would say by the look at it, I would say complete the 17 credits and transition. But if you feel like doing an Itil 4 foundation and then CDS and so on would be more beneficial because you can apply that in the workplace quicker, then go that route.
Okay, brilliant. And could you explain the customer and employee experience again, please? Someone's asked.
Sure. Oh, yeah. And employee experience is covered, but it's not going to be a big part. The key part is the customer journey, and it's basically mainly covered in the tri-stakeholder value module. And the customer journey is the customer from the point where that person or that customer starts looking for alternatives or for providers, all the way to when they get the value co-created. So the first step is explore. Then it goes to a step, I don't remember the name, but it's where engagement, when you start building the relationship with them. The next one is offer, if I'm not mistaken, where once you make the decision, that's where you make the decision. Yes, I want to go with this service provider. Then it's going next one, which is offer. So when you finalize the offer with a contract and so on. Then it goes to a phase called transition, because you might need certain information, certain activities before the work gets done. Then it goes to the value co-creation, which is all the steps in the service value chain. And then it goes to the final step, which is a value realization. And this is basically asking the customer, was it valuable? Is what you were expecting? Is this co-creating value? Because there's no point to deliver something and then go to the next customer. You need to make sure that if there is something wrong, you can learn and improve from that. So that's more or less the process. I mean, I don't have the diagram with me, otherwise I will show it, but it's all those steps that the customer has to go from the exploration phase all the way from the customer gets the product or the service.
Okay, cool. Thank you. We've got quite a few more questions actually, but I realise we're quite pushed for time, so we'll try and get through as many as possible. Just a few questions for you, Sally, around ILX's offering. A few people asking how much the e-learning courses cost and what is included in the e-learning. Do they include the exam costs as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there are lots of options available, but we can offer not only the accredited e-learning course, but also that can include the exam. So we will provide you with an exam voucher so that when you're ready to take the exam, you can redeem that voucher, and we set that all up. We've got a dedicated team that support you in that that exam process so that you can take that. And also we will provide the official manuals as well. The cost, again, that depends. It depends whether or not you're doing the Itil 4 foundation or you're doing one of the modules. So the costs do change, and the e-learning costs are different to the costs if we were delivering that virtually. But the best thing to do is to go to the website, because all the costs are on the website, and obviously you've got your 30% discount that you can apply to that. And if you were looking to run something in-house specifically for your organisation, so say you have 10 people that you want to train within Itil 4 Foundation, the best thing is to contact us directly so that we can quote you depending on those numbers. But yeah, absolutely. Not only do you get the accredited content learning, you can also get the exams and manuals that we provide as well.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Sally. A quick question as well, someone just asking if the recording of this webinar will be available, which it will. Everyone who's registered today will have an email tomorrow with a link to the recording. And just quickly, because I realise we're running slightly over time here, one for you, Lewis, someone asking if you could just elaborate a little bit on how Itil 4 can help project and program managers.
Well, yeah, we have one of the practice as part of Itil 4 is project manager. Project management, and project management is needed to manage services. But it depends on what the person is working, because if it's a person working more into the project management space, then maybe Prince 2 or Prince 2 Agile might be more relevant for the person. So it depends on what the role of the person is. But I'm conscious of time. I mean, I will be happy to have a long discussion with that person to say what would be the right model or not. But Itil 4 brings concept of project management, and it depends on what the person is trying to solve with the Itil. It's about engagement with the board of directors or with other stakeholders, and it's about getting the work done with the colleagues and so on. Itil provides guidance, especially, but it might be the case that for that person, Prince 2 or Prince 2 Agile might be the best product.
Okay, cool. That's great. Thank you. I know we're slightly pressed for time, but if people are happy to just hang on a couple more minutes, because there's quite a few more questions that I think would be good to answer. Someone's asking, Lewis, for you, could you frame Itil in a context of where it fits with other IT-related practices? Sorry.
Yeah.
For example, yeah, if there are ones, if these roles, and if Itil will be valuable for all these different IT roles, I think they're saying.
Yeah, and I think when referring to other practices, they're referring to practices such as Devops, Lean, Agile, and so on. And something that was done initially in the development of Itil 4 was that Itil 4 was going to be compatible with those practices or with those frameworks. And reason why is because, let's be frank, there is no practice which is the silver bullet. There's no practice that this practice unique in isolation will solve all the problems in the organization. Somebody might be using Itil 4, but in certain areas might need to use Scrum or might need to use DevOps and things like that. So we made it as compatible as possible with other practices. DevOps is a big one, and in part of when you go through the training and through the books, you will see that we reference a lot of DevOps and Lean, and high velocity IT. It really has a big emphasis on that area. So yeah, and people who developed Itil, the architects of Itil, they also coming from different backgrounds with a lot of knowledge from those frameworks. So yeah, we made it as easy as and adaptable to those practices as possible.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. A couple of questions around the case studies that you mentioned as well, Lewis, on where specifically people can find these.
Okay, sure. The easiest would be if you Google AXELOS space case studies, then you will get to a site which is called the AXELOS Content Hub. In there, we save some case studies as well as white papers. And I recommend to read the latest case studies. For Itil, have Vodafone, CERN, we have one with Atlassian, we have one with Spotify, and those are Id4 case studies. There's another one with a clothing brand, but I forgot the name. And we're trying to, an important thing, we're trying to produce more. We understand that sometimes it takes time for people to start seeing the benefits of Id4, and only at that point they can start sharing with the experiences with us. But one of our key priorities is to create more of that supplementary content, especially because that really proves how Id4 is being successful and how it's working for clients.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Lewis. Someone's asked how, what's the main function of the 4 pillars in terms of digital transformation? If you could maybe elaborate on that.
It will be difficult. I mean, it will depend on the company. But what we say is it really depends on the company, but the important thing that you need to address 4 of them. If, for instance, you don't address people, you can have the best technology, you can have the best team. Sorry, you can have the best technology, the best business model, you can have the best processes. But if people are not on board, if people are not embracing change, if people are demotivated, then really it's going nowhere. So it really keeping a balance between 4 of them, but your organization will decide based on what the nature of the business and your objectives, how much weight you give to each of them. But all of them, they need to be addressed, in my opinion. So to answer the question, should be based on the specific organization, based on the objectives. I wouldn't say all of them are equally important because some of them might have more importance for certain organizations, but 4 of them, they need to be addressed.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And regarding the modules within the Itil4 certifications, I've had a couple of people ask, both for Itil4 Foundation and also just for the Managing Professional designation in general, whether it's mandatory to complete all of the modules within these certifications, I think, if I've understood that correctly, hopefully.
So I think yes, I didn't understand properly the question. It's training mandatory for these qualifications. For foundation, no, but it's highly recommended. I wouldn't advise anybody to go and do self-learning because there is no point. If you're doing this, do it because you want to learn, not because you want a certificate. And for the rest of the modules, training is mandatory. You must take training in a training provider such as ILX in order to take the exam and get the certificate. I don't know if that was the question because I think that's how I understood.
Yeah, I think I understood the same as you.
And I think just to add to that, if you wanted to achieve the Managing Professional designation, we offer what we call a sort of a bundle, a Managing Professional bundle, so that you've got each of those 5 accredited courses that you can take as e-learning courses, and you've got an 18-month license period to take all of those accredited courses. So that's something that we can offer as a bundle so that you can get to that designation.
Yeah, and to add to this, the learning should be the key objective of the person. I mean, certificate is great, and of course we want it in the CV and so on, but it's a lot about the learning. So I would advise people really invest in learning. If you have a training provider who might charge you more, but it has better trainers, better systems, go for it. I personally did the training with ILX. That's a coincidence for Prince 2, and I couldn't have a better experience. The trainer that I had was just fantastic. So yeah, it's a lot about not only focusing on getting the certificate, but getting that experience from a really good trainer and understand very well the training course and the concepts in the module.
Definitely.
Yeah, and just to say, our courses haven't been designed to just, purely get the certification. They have been designed to also improve capability. Exactly. So just to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you both. And just you mentioned briefly then, actually, on the back of kind of CVs and certifications, Lewis, for you, someone's asked if Itil Foundation is enough on a CV on its own to complement experience, or do employers, not regard this as having value on its own? Like, how would you say, how useful is Itil 4 Foundation on a CV?
I mean, any certification is useful, definitely. And I mean, it will be always a debate. The way that I see it is, I would like Id4 Foundation to be more part of the, if you are totally new to IT service management, or even if you're at university, Id4 Foundation should be the first one to do, because it gives you the basics. Yeah, you can have it in your CV, and that's great to have it in the CV. But I think the real impact comes when you do the upper levels. And so I will say, somebody who is new, address foundation, and once you start working, once you start seeing your activities are taking place in which part of the service value chain, and more in the gauging side and more in the operational side, then start taking those modules. So yeah, the higher the certification, the better. Foundation is still recognizable. It's still being required by many companies as a requirement. But if you want to show off in your CV, then go for the higher levels, definitely.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And a couple of questions around the digital and IT strategy module. Someone's asking, well, they're asking whether ILEX will be offering it for a start, but then there's also, what will the course format be of the strategist module, which is currently not available?
So yes, it will be available from our ILEX. It is in progress as we speak. We don't have a release date yet, but we're hoping it will be within Q1. But the exam, well, it's slightly different to the other modules in that not only do you have to pass the exam, you also have to submit 4 course assignments. They need to be completed and they need to be signed off by the trainer before taking the exam. So it's a little bit different from the other modules. And as soon as we have got some more information, if you can just sort of pop your details over to us, we'll make sure that we provide you that, so you know you've got a little bit more information in terms of how the course is structured, length of time, etc.
Yeah, and adding to this, with this module, as you saw my presentation, this is tend to be for the CIOs or future CIOs, C-level executives, heads of, directors of, and so on. So we wanted to make it a bit more appropriate for them. So as Sally said, we, as part of the assessment, we have an exam, but there's also a second component, which is assignments that are done in class through case studies, where the trainer is going to evaluate and with some assessment criteria to decide if that person passed that assignment or not. And behind all of that, there is a process for us with ILEX and other organizations to make sure that the trainers are the right trainers for this course, because as we said, the last thing that we want is a junior trainer teaching to people very experienced. So we increase our training requirements internally with the training providers, and therefore that's why it takes a bit longer for training organizations to prepare this course. But let me reassure you, it's going to have a different experience, because you're going to have trainers who have more experience, trainers who are have more capabilities, and mainly the format is going to be a lot about sharing success stories, sharing what people think from the case study, and so on. So trying to recreate a bit of the normal classroom environment with a little bit of debate or what we tend to do in the workplace.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lewis. Last 2 questions now. Sorry, just I realise we've overrun quite a lot, but the penultimate one is: do you support Army standard learning credits? Not sure what those are.
Which, sorry, say it again.
Actually,
Army standard learning credits.
It's just the LCAS, I think it is, which we are actually about to reapply for. So we can't currently, but we are actually reapplying for that, if that's what I think the question is around.
Okay.
So I don't know if that person's still on the line. I think it's called, is it LCAS, the Army credits?
Yeah, LCAS, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We used to provide those. At the moment, we are literally in the middle of the process of reapplying for that. So whoever asked that question, I'll keep you posted as to whether or not we were successful.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Sally. And the last question for you, Lewis, is how can we map Itil problem management with the Eaton process, which I'm not familiar with, but hopefully you are, Lewis, to have a single concise process and methodology with regards to problem management?
Wow, that's a very specific and technical question. What I recommend to that person is go and read the problem management practice. If you don't have access to the practices, send an email to Sally, to ILX, and I'll make sure that you get access to that practice. You might have the answer there. If not, I will be happy to put you in contact with one of our experts to address that question, because I mean, I will need more context to that, first of all, but secondly, it might require somebody with more expertise and more experience to answer that. But I'm sure in the problem management practice, you will find a big part of the answer to that question.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Lewis. That's all the questions. So I'll just hand back over to Sally, I think, to close this off.
So I don't think I have any more to say, but other to say thank you everybody for attending. I hope you found it useful. You've got the contact us email address, so if you have got any further questions you'd like to ask us, then please send us an email, and we will be following up with an email tomorrow. You will have a link to the recording of this session, as well as links to any of our future webinars that we're holding over the next couple of weeks that are relating to the Id4 scheme. So I wish you all a pleasant afternoon, and thanks very much for your time. And thank you, Lewis, for joining us, and thank you, Alice, as well.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, everybody, for attending.